support them enough with the instructions they need in order to deliver the curriculum that they have to deliver in order to work with the kind of kids that they're working with.
Right.
They're just not, the process that they go through is, when they go through the university process, it's so detached from the real world that the theory, they don't know anything to do with it. And then we have the alternative certification programs where they go through it so fast, and some of those programs are really just focusing on how to do the paperwork as a teacher. And then we have some really good ones. We have like Teach for America. We have some good programs, but you know, the problem with Teach for America is that they only in that classroom for 2 years. There's that constant turnover. So our teachers are just, the other part of it is, in our society, we standardize curriculum and we standardize assessments for kids. I'm a big proponent of standardizing education, but I think we do it backwards. We should standardize our preparation of teachers. So because if you are a child and you have the standardized curriculum and you're supposed to take the standardized test, but the teacher that is teaching me is not certified in my area, how am I supposed to do well on these tests?
Well, you know, I think nothing's really changed though with that in teachers. I spent some time at the University of Houston at the College of Education Institute for Urban Public Education, spent a lot of time working with teachers and pre-service teachers, and your point is so well taken that, you know, you had some of them that had the pedagogy and the instruction down and the assessment part, but they didn't have the social skills. They weren't able to connect with students, particularly if the student was different than they. And I used that word earlier. The piece that I saw missing many times was just the ability to give unconditional love to every child. And a child is no different today than back then when I went to school. A child knows that. A child can receive and perceive that from their teacher automatically. And I sense when I go to a lot of schools today, teachers are there, it's a job, it's a paycheck, I'm about 3 years from retirement, don't talk to me much, I'm out of here. And that's not going to help the situation, particularly the kids we have today who need more than that, a lot more than that.
Well, I think another one of the critical points that needs to be addressed is how parents participate, because I think that if parents participated on a different level, teachers would participate on a different level as well. And so one of the things that we have to deal with as well is how do we get our parents more involved?
But let's talk about that for a moment. I agree. We need more parental involvement. We always have needed more. But the reality is we're not going to get a lot more parental involvement from certain parents. We have single mothers who are working 2 jobs, 3 jobs. We have all kinds of other issues. Where is the role of what we used to talk about, again, when I was in school, it wasn't just the parents, it was the whole community. It was every adult taking responsibility for every child. That's the other piece that's missing. We don't have that.
Well, because our community has drastically changed. With integration, our community drastically changed to the point where people are less connected to each other than they were before. However, I believe that one of the reasons we don't have parents engaged at the level that we need to have them engaged, despite the fact that we have parents working 2 or 3 jobs, is because our system has not been set up ever from the beginning of setting up the public education system. It never was set up to include parents in the process.
Many schools say they want parents, but really don't want parents. Some of the things that some schools make parents do even to get through the door to either be part of the instructional day or to even be as a volunteer, it's almost prohibitive. You hear that all the time. They say they want us, but when I try to go and get engaged and involved, they don't want me.
Right. So when school was set up back in the 1800s, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson said they believed that unless every person could do reading, writing, and rhetoric, that our democracy would be threatened. That dictators could come in and we would follow them at any whim that happens. So they believe that every person should have that. But because most of the Americans at that time didn't have those skills, Jefferson said we need to have a public school system that teaches everybody that, right? So it took a while before that came into existence in this country, before the populace said, yes, we agree that there should be a public school system. And so given that, the fact that the public school system was set up because parents could not do this, it was set up as a system that would not include parents. And so trace it all the way up to today, there is still no place really for parents to be involved unless the parents have the will, the wherewithal within themselves to organize themselves
So what can the community do? What can the community do? How can they get engaged in this dialogue around education? Do they need to show up at the school board meeting, sign up at the public session and speak? What do they need to do? How do they get engaged?
Well, I think the first thing the community should do is organize themselves.
Okay.
They should organize themselves and as a group determine what they think, what they believe is important for their children to have and to learn. Once they have that organization within themselves, then they can take that impact of their organization to the school. I mean, in the Heights, there was a school, before the Heights became very popular,
right.
There was a school that was performing terribly. I think it's Love Elementary, performing terrible scores. But once a certain group of people moved into the area, they organized themselves and said, what are we going to do about this school, because our children are going to start going
right.
there. They organized themselves, and then they went and impacted that school. Now it's one of the best performing schools in Houston. Again,
it's that sense of will and want, of commitment, of accountability, of being engaged. You know, we talk about it a lot, the ability to educate yourself, take information, turn the education into knowledge, knowledge into wisdom, wisdom and do something with it through action. Mm-hmm. But to do that has always been with any kind of movement, because that's really what we're talking about, right. Creating that movement again. Yeah. You have to be able to have the ability to show up, stand up, and speak up. And we don't have enough of that today.
And I think that one of the reasons we don't have enough of that in the communities that we're talking about is because they see themselves as powerless.
Yes.
And I talk about that in the book. It's like how they got to the place where they see themselves as without any power.
All right. To be able, the definition of empowerment, to be able. And so this wonderful book, The Educational Contract, A Call to Action by Dr. Sharon Washington, will help you do that. I'm going to let her give her website where you can find her and more information about the great work she's doing through her company and through this book, and how you can engage her in your community for a dialogue. So give us that wonderful website if you would.
So the website is www.